Celles Neues Rathaus is a dark place, one that withholds occult enigmas and atrocities, buried deep beneath its subterranean floors, leading down into a hellish abyss. Tales of what lies beneath are rare, but they exist, and they're burned forever into the minds and memories of those who have experienced its darkness, mystery, and its unbelievable horror. The town of Celle in Lower Saxony, Germany, dates back to the 13th century. It's a quiet, picturesque medieval town of timber-framed houses, cobblestone streets, and quiet charm. But beneath its beauty lies a disturbing historical undercurrent. Celle's history is interwoven with the rise of German militarism and the early ideologies that gave way to Nazism. Anti-Semitic movements found footing across the region long before the Third Reich, as parts of northern Germany saw waves of racial propaganda and nationalist fervor in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This atmosphere of militarism and ideological extremism set the stage for the atrocities that would later mark the town and the buildings that housed its military. During the final weeks of World War II, the Celle massacre, otherwise known as Celler Hasenjagd, unfolded. Over 3,000 concentration camp prisoners being transported to Bergen-Belsen were killed in an Allied air raid and subsequent attacks by SS guards, Gestapo, Nazi Party officials, and some members of the public. Survivors were hunted down across the town in nearby woods, with only 487 reaching Bergen-Belsen. The events left an indelible mark on Celle, reinforcing an atmosphere of terror and tragedy that would echo through its streets and buildings for decades. A memorial including a copper beech tree, Blutbuche, now stands in Triftlagen Park to commemorate the victims. I just wanted to take a quick moment out of this documentary as I'm editing it and play just a few minutes of the liberation of Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, which was very close to Celles Neues Rathaus. You know, given our current climate of rising anti-Semitism, it is an important exercise to remember the past, to know that no matter what ethnicity, what background of a group, they're never the sole cause of all your problems. It's important to recognize how easily a population can be programmed and brainwashed, especially when they're in a state of desperation. I know there's a lot of Holocaust deniers out there. I think it's important to play this footage. I'm not going to play anything that is too traumatizing. I'm going to have to blur any corpses or anything like that out. But I do think it's important to understand and witness the gravity of the Holocaust. So here it is.
Heute, am Montag, den 23. April 1945, ich, die SS-Aufseherin Hertha Bothe, bin seit dem 1. März 1945 im KL Bergen-Belsen. Ich bin geboren am 3.1.21 in Tetero, Mecklenburg.
Sag mal, stehen, ganz.
Deutschen Volkes. Während wir Sie durch dieses Lager führen, müssen Sie sich zwei Dinge von Augen halten. Erstens, dass wir, die Engländer, bereits 10 Tage hier gewesen sind. Wir hoffen, alle Toten aus den Baracken fortgeschafft zu haben. Oder gequält und in die Massengräber gehetzt, manchmal bevor sie tot waren. Und das sind Leute aus allen Ländern, von allen Regionen und Rassen Europas. Das einzige Verbrechen vieler war ihr Patriotismus. Ein kleiner Teil nur, und doch schwerer zu ertragen, als es der Menschenseele möglich.
Today is the 24th of April, 1945. My name is Gunnar Illingworth and I live at Cheshire. The things I have committed, well, nobody would think they were human at all. We actually know now what has been going on in these camps. I know personally what I am fighting for.
Even after the massacre, the shadow of Celle's violent history seemed to cling to its structures. Those who would later occupy the largest military installation in town would feel that weight keenly. Formerly known as the Heidekaserne, Celles Neues Rathaus was originally built as a military barracks. Construction began in 1869 under the Kingdom of Prussia. The massive neo-Gothic brick complex stretched 181 meters in length and 25 meters in height, housing up to 1,200 soldiers and over 300 rooms, making it the largest contiguous military installation in the German Empire at the time. Initially, the building served as barracks for the Hanoverian infantry regiments, and later as a major base for the Prussian army. During World War II, the Heidekaserne became a headquarters for the Nazi SS. The SS, Schutzstaffel, literally protection squad, was the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party, originally formed to protect Hitler, but eventually expanding into one of the most feared organizations of the regime, responsible for enforcing racial policy, running concentration camps, and conducting military operations. It's alleged that the complex was used not only for military administration and training, but also for research and detention. There are accounts, though few documented, of Jewish concentration camp prisoners being seen within the complex. For what purposes, we can't be entirely sure. Even decades later, soldiers stationed there would report an almost tangible sense of oppression. Josh, a former soldier stationed at Celles Neues Rathaus when it was renamed Trenchard Barracks after the British took it over, recalled the feeling vividly.
It felt like I was being watched by something. Also, the reports of suicide in the camp in the first 3 months. 4 lads from my regiment killed themselves. I hated the feel of the place. Even the town felt like it had something to hide. The amount of Jewish graves are unbelievable. I'd hear noises above us, and the 3 floors above us were empty.
Another former British soldier named Stephen recalls the eerie traces of that past still lingering decades later.
During my time there, we still had World War II Nazi furniture in the rooms marked with eagles and swastikas. It was an official concrete seal to the cellar steel doors, and it could only be opened by a state official. Why all this fuss for an ordinary entrance to a basement area? By the way, I spoke to some top architect, and he concluded the SS simply put all the slave labour down the cellars and flooded them, drowning the poor sods.
It's no secret that the Nazi regime had an obsession with the occult. Their symbology, ritualistic behavior, and pagan-like belief systems were central to the SS's identity. In 1935, Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, founded the Ahnenerbe, a state-sponsored research institute dedicated to studying what they believed to be the ancestral heritage of the Aryan race. The Ahnenerbe conducted expeditions across the world, from Tibet to the Arctic, searching for mythical connections to ancient Germanic roots. But deeper within its mission, the Ahnenerbe's studies drifted into the supernatural. Spiritualism, ritual magic, and occult experimentation were whispered to have taken place under its banner. Some accounts suggest that elements of this research were carried out in secret facilities scattered across Germany, including Celle. Though no solid proof has ever surfaced, British soldiers later stationed there would speak of something profoundly unsettling beneath the Rathaus. As Allied forces advanced into Germany near the war's end, SS officers stationed at the Heide Kaserne faced the collapse of their empire. They had much to hide and much to destroy. In the final days before surrender, it's believed the SS flooded the lower cellar vaults of the complex, sealing off whatever lay beneath. Whether they were hiding documents, destroying evidence, or concealing something much darker, no one can say for certain. Rumors spread among locals and soldiers alike that the SS had been developing a secret weapon, or perhaps performing human experiments. When the British took over the site, divers were dispatched to explore the flooded basements, which were 5 levels deep. What followed would become one of Celle's most disturbing legends. 3 Royal Navy divers entered the flooded depths, wearing the heavy canvas diving suits of the era, metal helmets, surface-supplied air hoses, and weighted boots. On the first level, they found the walls painted entirely black, covered in Latin inscriptions, pentagrams, and symbols of occult origin. Pressing deeper, they reached the second level, where narrow hallways were lined with rooms containing hospital-style beds equipped with leather restraints, like an asylum. In one of those rooms, the divers allegedly encountered men strapped to chairs, still moving, still alive, though horribly deformed. Some missing their heads, some with animal limbs or goat-like features fused to their bodies. Panicking, the divers fled. Only one made it out. When the surviving diver was pulled to the surface, he was in shock, unable to speak for hours. The other 2 divers' lines were recovered, torn, and severed. Their bodies were never found. After World War II, the complex became part of the British occupation zone. It was renamed Trenchard Barracks, serving as a major garrison for the British Army throughout the Cold War. But it didn't take long for soldiers stationed there to sense that something was off. Shadow figures, cold drafts, footsteps from empty halls, stories of strange encounters were everywhere. Even the walls were replastered, symbols and runes would reappear, and the RMP basement doors stayed sealed. Several first-hand accounts from former British soldiers stationed there illustrate how the oppressive atmosphere and hints of the building's dark past persisted decades later.
In Celles Neues Rathaus, the RMP duty room is in, or was in, a Waffen-SS barracks, which has a cellar. Many years ago, post-war obviously, the RSM exploited the possibility of extra storage in the basement and deployed his junior ranks to clear the area up and out of kit. They did and found apparently stars of David and Jewish or Hebrew writings on the wall claiming to say, "Help us," or words to this effect and more. The rooms had never been previously explored by RMP prior to this time. The RSM or RMP OC ordered the basement cleaned up and painted, thinking naturally that the site had been subject to criminal damage in the form of graffiti. However, it happened again and then again. I don't want to spin it any more than that, but I do recall the NCO telling me the story that said that the area was sealed up and forgotten about after it had been cleaned up for the last time.
I was stationed at Trenchard Barracks in Celle from 1987 to 1994 with 2 Royal Anglian. Being a bandsman, a handful of us were on a medics course in that massive building. Not only did the guy delivering the course show us the stairwell down to the basement, the bricked up door, and told us about the 3 divers, but I'm pretty sure he also showed us 2 pieces of glass, a brick's width apart in a wall which acted as a window through to another room. On the inside of the glass, scratched into it, were shapes and letters or words. I can't remember what the inscriptions were, but he told us that every time the German authorities removed the glass and replaced it with clear pieces, the inscriptions returned within days.
When working in the main kitchen late at night, there was always a feeling of not being alone. Several times I saw something moving out of the corner of my eye. When I looked, there was nothing there. I would hear noises coming from the back corridor, but on investigating, there was nothing there. The corridor led to the toilets at the back of the kitchen. I used to close the door, but during my shift, it would appear open again, with only me in the kitchen. I can honestly say I never opened it. The block I lived in as well was directly next to the outdoor swimming pool. Sometimes that block would be cold even though the heating was on full. Even the drying room would be cold. I also never liked going on show parades in the BHQ building, as you could sometimes hear footsteps on the floor above even though the offices were empty.
My ex-girlfriend's dad was based at Trenchard Barracks in the Cold War days. One night we were all in my girlfriend's lounge telling ghost stories. He piped up and started telling us about the time he spent there. The first night he and his mates arrived, they saw silhouettes through the curtains of people walking past the windows and thought nothing of it, until the next day when they awoke to realise that their windows were about 7 feet above the ground. There were other instances where they'd hear people walking on the floors above them, but the time he was there were no people stationed on the above floor. Another time, both him and his mate came back to find that their room had been completely trashed. He said it was always a very eerie atmosphere. I've also heard from another source about how the birds won't fly over the ground, and also about something about a blood patch on the floor that keeps reappearing no matter how many times it's been cleared away. I only came across this thread because I searched about paranormal experiences at Trenchard Barracks on Google after telling my friend about it. It turned out his uncle, who has nothing to do with my ex-girlfriend's dad whatsoever, was stationed there at some point in his military career. He also heard about the divers and had himself experienced the strange phenomenon relating to these premises. Both of them completely unrelated people, and they both had the same story, which is why I felt the need to look this up. Also, they both said that the suicide rate there was abnormally high.
From its origins as a 19th century Prussian barracks to its rumored use by the SS in its post-war haunting of British soldiers, Celles Neues Rathaus stands as one of Germany's most chilling and enigmatic military sites. Whether the horrors described in its flooded depths were symbolic or real, the echoes of war or trauma, or something truly supernatural, the stories persist. Even today, locals avoid the building after dark. Many claim to feel an oppressive energy emanating from its lower halls. The basements remain sealed, and no official excavation has ever been authorized. Perhaps what lies beneath Celles Neues Rathaus is best left undisturbed.